Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Afternoon.
Thanks for being here. Second week of class when you have many other things vying for your time. My name is Jennifer. I'm the director for our Center for Teaching and Mentoring. We're just so glad that you're here. I want to introduce my colleague, Dr. Katie Foss, who's the director of our School of Journalism and Strategic Media. Katie has quite a bit of experience teaching large classes, so she's going to share some strategies with us today. We have a whole nother pot of humans with us in the Zoom room, so I'm going to hang back here and monitor that. But please join me in welcoming Katie Foss.
It is kind of funny to not have an even bigger group because I love a big group. I thrive off of big classes. My favorites are actually either really big or really small, and I don't like classes that are kind of in between, and I'll go into that in a little bit. And by the way, I picked all of my references to hopefully fit with the demographics of the group that I thought we would have today. I would not probably do this one in class unless it was a trick question, because most of them would not get the reference. So just to note on that. And just a little bit about why I'm here. I have been teaching our big 1020, our Intro to Media and Entertainment, since 2008, since my very first semester as a new professor, a new assistant professor. And I've taught more than 30 sections of this class. So I've taught it more than 30 times. I've also taught the honor section, which is capped at 20 to 25 students. But I generally have had anywhere from 40, my least favorite amount, up to 99, which is what I'm teaching now. I will mention that right now, as department chair, I do make the schedule, so I can pick what I want to teach, and I choose to pick to teach this class, if I can talk. I choose to teach this class. I like teaching in the True Blue Core. I like teaching the Gen Ed. I like connecting with freshmen right away when they start at MTSU. And because this is part of the True Blue Core, means that I have students who are majors in the School of Journalism and Strategic Media. Take a syllabus and then have a seat. And then I also have quite a few students who are majors in our college or who are majors across the university. So it's really fun to come together and have students who are dreaming of becoming pilots, for example, or accountants, or anything. It runs the gamut in this class, which I think makes it even more exciting. It also makes the students generally more anxious, especially when they're outside of the area of interest, and sometimes a little bit nervous about how the class will go. And that's who am I. Okay. All right. So the first thing I just wanted to lay out is something that I'm sure that we all know. Class size absolutely matters in all the things we do in class. For the big classes, everything is amplified. So little mistake in a small class becomes a much bigger one in a big class. If something embarrassing happens to you in a big class, it's even bigger. You have a lot more eyes on you if you trip and fall down, if you go to class with your shirt on backwards, if you go to class covered in stickers. All those things have happened to me, by the way. It also means that in terms of the tone, the structure, the dynamic, that if you have one person come in late in a pretty small class, it doesn't really matter. If you start to have late comers in a big class, it absolutely matters. If you have 15 people come in late in a 99-person class, that's like boom, 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 opening the door. Oh, I have to find a seat. And of course, nobody ever sits on, with the end seats open. So then you're like, excuse me, going down the road. It's really disruptive, which is why it's even more important to have policies that reinforce behaviors to create a less disruptive classroom, right? Something that's small in a small class, big in a big class. And I will note that especially when you're teaching in the True Blue Core, when you're teaching a Gen Ed to first-year students, the quantity of emails can be overwhelming. You guys found that, those of you who teach, especially freshmen? So many emails, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but a lot of the things that I do are designed to cut down on the amount of kind of worry, but also just emails that could be answered in other ways. I absolutely have It's in the Syllabus t-shirt. In fact, I just ordered another one to reinforce that. But I do a lot of preemptive strategies to cut down on the number of emails I get that could be answered in other ways, usually because it's in the syllabus. Right? And I do want to note that there's an upside of teaching a big class. The energy that you have in a big class is just it can be so exciting, and especially with first-year students, that you can reach a dynamic that you can never have in a really, really small class, especially a small class of upper-level students. which is what I found, that the energy difference between the small seminar versus the first year freshman true blue core big class when everybody's coming together, it's really exciting. And it really sets the stage for what can be a really fun and enriched learning experience. So this is weird, I'm not used to this. Right. And I want to say that as I was creating this presentation, and just as I approach teaching the True Blue Core class, the Big Gen Ed, 3 goals that I have. One, of course, to create the most optimal learning rich environment that I can. And that means I'm not distracted by the behavior of my students. Hopefully I don't distract them with my behavior. And they're not distracting each other. So some of my policies might seem a little over the top, but it's designed to create that learning rich environment that's not something where everybody's distracted. Ooh,
I'm sorry, I'm sharing your screen.
Oh, the screen, okay.
Yeah, sorry, keep going, Katie.
Sure. And I also want to make sure that the students can connect with me and not just feel like a lost person out in the crowd. I remind them constantly that I can see them, because sometimes they think they're anonymous. They think that, oh, it's just a one-way street. Absolutely not. The more that I can interact with students, the better. And I want them to get to know me and to get to know their peers. I also strive to create a manageable workload for myself. I do typically have a GTA, but it's more for classroom management than anything else. And I take on most of the grading and most of the work, especially with the group project. So it's one more. So creating a manageable workload is really important. I have tried a lot of different types of assignments, of ways of assessing, including individual essays or a series of essays. And I found that that gets to be a lot, almost an impossible task, especially when you reach 100 students, right? So I also strive to cut down on, and I said, unnecessary questions. I love great questions, especially questions about our material, about things that take us a little bit farther into the different concepts. I'm talking about what are we reading for this week? I don't know what we're reading. Chapter 1. It's the first week, chapter 1, which is in the syllabus on D2L, and I emailed it out and I said it in class. By the way, that's a real question I got from 4 students this week. Right? Because they're anxious, they want to make sure that they're going to do everything, the right way. But I want to try to cut down on the unnecessary questions. I want to cut down on chaos that distracts us from learning. Right? And then I also create both a syllabus and a class structure that cuts down on complaints, especially because there are a bunch of loopholes, for example, in the grading scale or in the way that we assess things, or if it's confusing. That'd be a lot of complaints. Because I teach a lot of students. I've had well over 2,000 students since I started at APSU. I used to add it up and then I got too much. But I want to cut down complaints, and I've been successful at that. I've never had a case go to grade appeals. I rarely get complaints about grading. Rarely do I hear from parents, which I'm like, oh, I almost never do I have complaints, and that's because I try to be really transparent with my grading. I also offer a lot of extra credit and ways to connect with me during the semester so that when it comes to the end of the term, everyone knows where they stand. All right. Okay, so I made copies of my syllabus because I thought it could be helpful to talk a little bit about the way I structure class. And there are copies there if you didn't get one. And of course, everyone has their own different ways that they approach the syllabus. Because this is a True Blue Core approved class, and I worked really hard to get this class in the True Blue Core, although we have multiple sections, I think something like 13 sections now. We do have some things that are standardized, of course, the learning objectives and the different True Blue Core, the category definitions and stuff. But long before the True Blue Core, I created a lot of policies that have been shaping them ever since I started, again, 17 years ago, which is crazy, right? In order to create a class that encourages learning, cuts down on workload, and hopefully eliminates complaints, especially about grading, right? I want to create a good environment, even if some of it seems a little harsh, right? I have found policies that students definitely do not like. I will tell you that right now, especially my phone policy. So for me, phones are distracting when people use phones. Other stuff's distracting as well, but if they're distracting me, they're distracting their peers, that's not going to work. So one of the policies that I have in my class, and you can see it in the syllabus, is that in class, unless we're using phones for an activity, which we do quite often in the media class, phones need to be put away. I do some reminding throughout the semester, but especially a week or two in, if you use a phone in class, it's 10 points off of your engagement grade. Using a phone, you're not engaged. If you're asleep, you're not engaged. If you're reading a book for another class, you're not engaged. If you're playing a video game, you are not engaged. If you're peeling the wrapper off of your lotion bottle and then sticking it back on the bottle, you're not engaged. All things that have happened, just to lay that out. If it happens twice for the same student, you lose 20 points and you're asked to leave class. And I will say it never happens twice, right? And a few ways that I do that to be less disruptive. One is that, of course, I remind students and I call people out pretty quickly. So even now that we're on, the 4th day of class, stop phone, oh, we're gonna put that away. And just gently remind, we're gonna put them away because we're focusing on learning. If you have another reason that you need to have someone get a hold of you, if you have a child in daycare or something, feel free to let me know, put it on silent, step out, that's fine. Remind people, I call people out. I also have it where I can have it known that I can penalize them and let them know in an email. I might not call them out in front of the class if I feel like it would be disruptive to the class. So I know it sounds a little over the top, but I found that that's one of my tips for creating a really positive, engaging environment. Right? I also tell them that they may not online shop or do anything with laptops, except take notes. And if I see them do anything that's not taking notes, okay, you can't use a laptop for a while. Right? I also have time in which we put away laptops. If we're watching a movie in class, which we do in a media class, laptops closed, we're just gonna pay attention, right? So I set up my expectations in such a way that every single student in the class knows what I expect and what we're going to do. Again, they don't like it at first, but it does help create an environment in which they wanna participate. They want to be part of the conversation. They wanna connect with the people around them. And notice I also say staying awake. And I don't call on people, I don't use the Socratic method unless you're sleeping. If you're sleeping, I'm good to wake you up. I'm really clear with late assignments. Note that I am a firm believer in assessing on more than exams, even though with a big class, it would be easier if we just did multiple choice. Of course it would be. But I don't think that really helps everybody learn the material. I think it's better to have more opportunities for different learning styles to emerge. I always give an engagement grade, and that's my attendance. Instead of, I say here on time sheet, you sign the here on time sheet because you're here on time, right? And then you earn an engagement grade by being awake and focusing and taking notes and participating. Right? And my group project. So it can be a lot to do a group project in a really big class. I've done a group project every single semester that I taught the gen ed, even with 99. In fact, Friday's group project day, which I love. Right? And I require them to sit with the groups, which are divided alphabetically once a week, to connect with each other. Then if we do a different class activity besides just boring lecture, right? They already are in groups, we're already structured, it's alphabetical, it helps me learn their names, and it's the way that they connect with each other and do something besides just listen to me talk. Even though I tell them I can talk forever. Shannon knows I can talk forever. Yeah. But I like to build in a lot of different ways to earn points. Part of that is also the ample extra credit that I offer in class. All of it's available to the whole class, of course, right? And you can do all the opportunities. If you do all of them, fantastic. Because they're all things that enhance your experience in our class, outside of our class, and at MTSU. One is like a kind of like a scavenger hunt thing where you go get engaged in some ways, including visiting the library and checking out a book. Right? In the first 2 weeks of class, I do office extra credit. Visit my office and we'll chat for about a minute and a half or longer, 5 points extra credit, because I want them to know where my office is. And especially because I'm not teaching in the same building as my office, that helps them get into our building. Because if they visit my office early on, they're more likely to visit later when they have questions. And they're more likely to see me as an approachable person that can answer questions as opposed to just someone who talks in front of the class. I also do attend an event, tie it to class in some way, come up with a media example related to our class. And then one of my favorite things is the question inquiry. So if students ask me a question that I can't answer in class, sometimes I'll throw it back at them and I'll say, okay, question inquiry, answer this by our next class. I'll post it on D2L. And you can tell me, for example, we had one last week. They asked me, what was the price of the Laserdisc player when it first came out? I do not have that knowledge off the top of my head. That was not covered as part of grad school. So I said, okay, question inquiry, it's your choice to do it or not. You must be in class to get to do it for the next one. You tell me, and then the next class period, we had a discussion about price and what did that mean. And I also like doing that because it's okay to admit that you don't know. I mean, we all teach. It's okay to say, I don't know everything, but I know that you know how to figure it out or how to find out the answer. So just another thing I like to do. And of course, the students that do all these extra credit things tend to be the students who are earning A's anyway, but it really helps with their anxiety. And it really helps them just feel a little bit more comfortable in our class and learn about different things. The media example, it helps me learn about a lot of different media examples that I would never know, especially because we're now so far away in age from each other that I don't even know the slang. So, and I would never use this in class because they wouldn't get it, right? Any questions on the syllabus or some of the things I have that works for me? I did say that you should build in flexibility, which is why I don't do it by class period in my schedule, I do by the week. And the schedule can change. So if I need to shift something because we're having a great discussion, I can. Or if I want to add in group project day or some kind of activity, I can do it. I'm not that locked in that I don't flex things a little bit. Yeah, still seems like a lot to keep track of. It all is. However, I've taught this class a lot of times. Okay. And that's why the extra credit has just kind of grown as I've tried to get students to be more engaged with campus. So I would say, everybody, of course, do whatever works for you. I like extra credit because I feel like it takes some of the stress away from taking exams, especially in a big class. And especially because I have a lot of students who might have accommodations and might have extra things that are adding to that. So, okay. No, but it's so much easier to have a robust syllabus than to have to face unexpected issues later that you didn't spell out. If you look at the back, I even spell out which font to use. And all of this, again, is just my teaching experience, what bugs me and what doesn't bug me. If something bugs me, instead of letting it, grow, I put it on the thing. Probably one of the only people who does Times New Roman on everything. But I know if they don't use Times New Roman, that they didn't read the directions, which is really helpful. Yeah.
Do you print them out for this class?
Do I what?
Do you
Print? 100%, yeah.
Okay.
I always print out a syllabus. I also email it to them and I post it on D2L. Because if I don't print it out, they're not going to read it.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I print it out and that way they're reading it while we're sitting there talking on the first day. Yeah, absolutely. I also put all my stylistic things in every assignment that I post on D2L. And I have them turn things in through Dropbox so I can keep track of everything, unless it's like a little thing we do in class in which they just turn in. Yeah, that's one thing that I had to figure out is classroom management, because having a huge pile of loose leaf paper is so much harder to keep track of than the Dropbox. Right, cool. By the way, I love Annalie Ski in the pilot episode of How to Get Away with Murder, even though, of course, she's flawed as a professor, but I love her command of the classroom right away. I'm not that scary. So how do I set up what I think, and hopefully is, a learning rich environment? Right? Communicate, communicate, communicate. Probably over communicate. I emailed every single one of my students in 1020 before the first day of class. I laid out welcome to class, please check out our D2L. Attached to the syllabus, I also made a big deadline sheet for them. And then I emailed the class periodically besides posting on D2L, even though it is an in-person class. I start every single class with an announcements and reminders slide. I remind them at the end of class, again, these are first year students, these are huge classes. I wanna make sure we're on the same page. I probably over communicate. I wanna say, have a plan and a routine. It's okay if the plan changes. If all of a sudden you can get a great guest speaker to come in, fantastic, right? But I have a plan and a routine enough that they know what to expect. My students know that when they come into class, they're gonna sign the here on time sheet, which is laid out in the front of the class alphabetically with 5 different sheets because I have so many students, and they're gonna sign their name. If they are late, they're gonna talk to us at the end of class and we're gonna mark that they were there. Right? They know that every Friday they're gonna sit with their groups. They can sit wherever they want the other days, every Friday and a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Friday, they're gonna sit with their groups, it's alphabetical, and I put a map up on the board where they're sitting, right? Generally, we're gonna do lecture Monday and Wednesday, and more likely to do an activity on Friday. I mean, all these things, I think, help cut down on chaos. What do I do? What do I expect? What do they call me? Which is one of the things I put even in that initial email. I'm Dr. Foss. Do not call me Miss Foss, and it's not Frost, and it's not Floss. And it's not Foff. I got that once too. All right. I also set up expectations like, don't leave the classroom during class unless it's an emergency. It's 55 minutes. 55 minutes, they could probably make it, right? Because again, one person leaving means that everybody's gonna start leaving, right? Especially in a big class. I say start strict. As we know, you can always get nicer, but it's really hard, right, to reel them in if you start out seeming so, cool with everything and flexible that they're like, oh, I can do whatever I want in this class. It's so much easier to be, I say strict yet compassionate. And I want students to communicate with me. If they're sick, I don't want them to come to class, so I make sure that they know, here's what we do if we can't come to class. Communicate with me. I don't want them to miss a few classes, decide that it's too late, and then stop attending. I don't want that. I want them to feel like they can approach me, which is part of the reason why I bring them into my office. But I also want them to know what I expect in class, that I can see all of you. We're gonna keep our phones away. You should take notes right now, which is something I'm saying to you guys, you can do whatever you want. But I say that to class. These would be good things to take notes on, especially because it's the first college class. I do have upper level students who occasionally take the class and then they might be a little frustrated, but one-on-one, we'll even talk about that a little bit, right? All right. And then outlining expectations. By the way, on my phone policy, their phones go off, or they're using their phones, 10 points off. My phone goes off, everybody who's there gets 10 points. Yay. Today my watch went off, so I did 5 points.
Yeah, get to dance in my class.
Oh, that's fun too. I like that. So have something.
In biology.
But it's something that they know.
Yeah.
This is what happens when we do this thing. Yeah.
So how do you address, so I have a student who wears blood glucose monitor and her phone will ring if her blood sugar is low.
Oh, well,
How
that's
do you address
totally different. So what I would say is, if you have any reason why, you need your phone out or it might go off, just let me know. Just,
No, she did let me know.
Oh, yeah.
In the first class.
and that is totally different.
Yeah, okay.
More likely they're trying to text in the pocket of their hooded sweatshirt.
Yes. Which, yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know this like this. Or my favorite was in a purse in the next seat. Or I can see it on the ceiling too because of the lights. So, I mean, all of that kind of thing. But I think that's also about building rapport, about making them feel comfortable. They can tell me stuff. I know I might have gotten a little strict when I had a student that was like, can I please have a breath mint? Is that okay? I'm like, it's fine. What I said is don't eat a turkey dinner in my class because I had a student do it. I've had a student drink a gallon of orange juice in class. So like that kind of thing. Eat chips during a silent film. So lots of different things that of course have come up because I taught this class a lot. We've all had things that come up and you're like, I did not think that was gonna happen, but then I build it into the next semester's thing, right? But a two-way street that here's what I expect and here's what, of you and here's what you can expect of me, right? Including like grading expectations. Say halt undesirable behavior. And that means if I see a phone, like I say, I call them on it. Or if I see something else that we're not gonna do either publicly or more often privately. Oh, hey, I noticed this. Are you okay? Okay, we're not going to do this in class. All right. Oh, you're late today, but let's not make it a pattern or it will affect your grade. Like those kind of small comments that I would say yield good outcomes. Because if you don't call students on it, it's just going to spread. And more of them will think it's okay to go to the vending machine during the midterm exam. Oh, but I got you something, Dr. Foss. But I do think that this is a big one in terms of creating trust that carries over to everything about your class. And again, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir on what we already know about this, but finding ways to connect, especially within a big class, can be really challenging. And that's why the extra credit office visit, I always make sure that I'm around for a few minutes after class. I chat with the students before class. I lure them into our office because we have the hangry closet, the SOJSM's free snack cabinet, 2 free snacks every day, no questions asked. We had more than 1,200 visits last semester. So we lure them with snacks, right? But other ways to connect with each other and with me, including like the group project, they sit with their peers, they talk about stuff, we have different activities so they get to know each other. So it's not just a big class, it's like they find their people within the big class. So it's not just everyone, nobody cares about me like that. And then getting the conversation going early, making it clear that it is not just me talking, and I'm talking more right now than I would in class without having to pause to be like, oh, throwing it back at you. What do you think about this? And what do you think about Annalise Keeping as a law professor? Although right now they wouldn't get that reference either. But. All right, so how do you get the conversation going? And these are different types of students that you see in a big class. All right. All right. First of all, and what do you do about it? Just one. All right. Bueller, meaning you say something and nobody talks. You don't see any hands. All they do is stare at you. Or even worse, right? So one thing I do to address that, if I get the Bueller, is first of all, I pause. I can pause for a long time. I have kids, I can pause for 5 minutes if I need to. More likely though, I'll rephrase the question, or even better to preemptively ward that kind of response off. I ask them something that anyone can answer to break the ice before we get into class. So I do different questions, like I think the second day of class I did, oh, let's do a pet survey. Who has a dog? I know they all want to talk about their dogs. And apparently even a possum is one of the pets of my class, but that kind of thing. We break the ice early so they're used to talking in class so that when I ask something that's a little bit more, let's say concept focused, they're more likely to answer. All right.
What is a Bueller?
Bueller, so it's from the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's of a character, a teacher, he's like, Bueller. It's a really boring teacher, and nobody responds. That's what I mean. The types. All right, next one. Captain Irrelevant. What do you do with that? Meaning that a student really wants to raise a hand and share something and it has nothing to do with the question that you've asked. Absolutely nothing. Or pretty far off. So one thing that I like to do is I'll be like, oh, I might just do that. Oh, interesting. And then go to the next student. Or if I feel like it really takes us off into the river of tangents, I'll say, well, those are great points. We need to get back here because we have a lot of content to cover, but thank you for sharing. Captain Irrelevant, and that person will strike more than once. All right, how about the one-upper, or I'm smarter than you? I get that too. Meaning that they want to show how smart they are in the whole class. So they might say something, especially in a gen ed, that's way over the heads of everybody, and usually isn't that relevant either. And then often there'll be more than one upper, and so another one will want to one up the other one. Well, no, actually, I think, and that can spin out of control unless you steer it back to what we're talking about. And I like to say things like, well, okay, that is a great point, but for this class, just for this point, here's what I mean by this. I bring it back to the for this class, including for this class, our definitions. For this class works really well because they can think whatever they want. It's great that they're bringing in ideas, especially as we cross disciplines, but sometimes we just got to learn this concept so that we can, move forward, especially when we're talking about really introductory things. All right, the Hermione Granger. What kind of person am I talking about?
Hello.
And also this one, which is fantastic to get the conversation going, but as we know, every class has a few big talkers and then a bunch of them that might talk if it opens up and then a bunch that don't want to talk. I know this one. This is me, especially in a class that I'm really into, right? So with the Hermione Grangers, and they also can be the know-it-alls too, and the one-uppers depending on who it is, but it's also just the person who really likes to talk in a big class, right? Some things I like to do with that, especially when we're like halfway through a class period, I'll do, okay, I see a lot of hands. Put your hand down if you've already said something. Let's hear from the people who haven't spoken yet. Or if I really want to get to where everybody gets to share, I've even done it where I pass out some kind of object, and I've done it with cups where every single person gets a cup. Once you've spoken once in class, you flip your cup over, and then it's on to everybody until everybody's spoken who wants to. So some of different things, but I have had it where I've even had to speak with especially like one student, and be like, okay, you have fantastic ideas. I need you to pause for just a second so that we can hear from some other people. And sometimes we even have a conversation in my office about it, and not in a negative way. It's more like, great ideas. Oh, I love that you've always done the reading. You're ready to go. I just want to make sure that we hear from a few other students, but thank you for the great thing about Hermione and Granger is that you know that you're probably not going to have a Bueller moment, right? All right. All right, the pensive responder. And I can also think about even like among different faculties who this person is, right? As opposed to like the big talker. Pensive responder who has great ideas. And if they just get an opportunity to share, they might not share often, but they're going to say something wonderful that really adds to the discussion. And so to get those people to respond, it helps to again go, okay, if you haven't spoken yet, right? Or to find out what they're interested in and connect with them. For example, like a favorite TV show or something that they might weigh in on. So, all right, Susie's side talker. Who am I talking about? The side conversation, and that can kill a discussion in a big class. And so what I'll do for that is I just pause until they stop talking. Pause and stare. Okay, now we can continue. Oh, do you have a question? I do that too. Okay. That kind of thing, because if you let it go on, they will do it every single class, and it'll become so distracting that other students won't learn. Bro, I don't need this class. Right? Too cool for school. Why am I even in it? I don't care. And I don't always have one of these, but I think we can relate to, especially in a gen ed, in a required class in which they might not want to be there. How do you bring them in? And sometimes you can't. But I will say that sometimes mixing up the class can help, especially like the group projects when I have them sit in different spots than they usually do, because they're less likely to do the, bro, I don't need this class, if they're in the front row. If you mix it up and they're around different people, especially if there's a bunch of them that do that together, and it's not just guys, but I just wanted to use that term. And also finding ways to engage them, finding out, well, what do they care about? How can we bring that into class? You're not always going to reach that, but that helps. Or a specific topic that maybe they weigh in, or a different activity that's not just the big lecture, to bring in the rule. Getting them into your office, especially for a non-negative thing, can help really with this as well, like the extra credit. Oh, I'm glad we could talk. Oh, that's really cool that this is your major. So, and then sleepy sleeperson. All right, no sleep in my class. If they do, I wake them up. All right, but I also make sure that we do a balance of lecture and I'm moving around, and we do other activities. We're having conversation, lights up, lights dimmed a little bit, depending on what we're doing. A bunch of you look like sleepy sleeperson right now. Okay. All right, and I'm almost done, and then I would love to hear all of your tips as well. What I want to emphasize is that you don't have to just do lecture. Yes, for a gen ed, you're going to have a lot of lecture. For a big class, you're going to have a lot of lecture, but that doesn't have to be the norm and the only way to present material. I don't like to do all of that. I like to do a balance with a lot of different things that we can do. Yes, I was alpha way before the movies, years ago, and I used food coloring, which was a big mistake. It was difficult to get off, but we had a really fun day in class. So again, because I do group projects, they're already divided into groups. And what I do is, because it's a media class, they look at an event or a person, a historical event or person, and look at how different media at different times covered that same event, and then they do a creative twist on the project. So every group has to write a project plan, which is paper, and do a presentation. But not everybody has to write, and not everybody has to present. If you don't want to get up in front of the class, you don't have to, which is one of the ways I help ease student anxiety. Right? So they do these big creative projects, which are super fun, and it mixes things up too. It also means that anytime we have a few minutes left of class, we can just be like, oh, okay, I'll give you the gift of this group time. Talk to your groups, how's it coming along, and I can go around and help them. It gives us a nice, I would say, bookending to the class, So we start pretty early, but I actually give them almost the whole semester for it. They get to meet each other early. Like I said, we're doing this on Friday. I show them lots of examples from the past, which is super fun. And I tell them about the bad projects, but I don't show the bad projects. It gives us a way, again, to connect to each other and also to organize the class, but also to do other things in class without wasting all of our time trying to get people in the groups. They're already in a group. It's much easier to do a debate. They're already in a group. It's much easier to do, okay, come up with your 5 rules about a specific topic, or come up with ways to respond to a scenario, or come up with ads or jingles or pictures or meme contests or all these different things. Again, I teach media, which is awesome because everything's connected to media. Keep forgetting we're on Zoom too. Scavenger hunts can be fun, case studies, costume contests for Halloween, but you don't have to dress up to get the points. You can also just make people guess and bring a picture of someone or something that you dress up as. And that way, if you're scared or you don't want to dress up, there's another way to get extra credit. But mixing it up. I've even done Topsy-Turvy Day where everybody gets assigned to a new seat to check it out just for the day. I don't know. Yeah, all kinds of things. But I also feel like it keeps me excited about the things we're going to do. And the group projects, even though I do about the same topic, the actual topics for their projects that they pick vary every single semester. I also have you may not pick this list of topics because I am so sick of these historical events, I can't even stand it. No Titanic. No more Titanic. No. Again, and then it's a really fun way to end the class as well for the ending of the semester because they do all their group project presentations, which I'm so excited. And usually they wind up coming around and really liking the group project. They groan and they groan. But because I do checkpoints that are done individually throughout the semester and an individual contribution write-up, it helps allay their fears, especially about doing the project themselves. And then, of course, somebody doesn't do the project, they still get credit. Nope, if you don't turn in your individual contribution write-up, then you don't get credit for the project. And the people who absolutely don't care don't turn in the individual contribution. So it works itself out. But I have students who write songs. I have students who do, I don't know, all kinds of really fun things, who will do game shows. And Catch Me If You Can themed one a couple times. We've had, you name it. I don't know, I can talk about that later, but all kinds of things. But it mixes it up and also absolutely helps their grades. But they do so much better because of the group project things, even if they're worried about it taken away, do so much better on those things than they would do if it's just, tests and quizzes, right? Because all of these are engagement activities and they earn points for them as well. Any questions on this?
Can you talk a little bit more about checkpoints?
So I do a midpoint checkpoint and I do a final checkpoint. Those are just individual paragraphs that students write up. How is your experience going? What questions do you have in this class? How's the group project going? Is there anything I can help with? So a way that for them to communicate with me and earn points for it at midpoint and checkpoint. Reflecting on final is reflecting on the class. Yeah, because I found I can't do individual essays on like big critical essays. I have too many students. But this is at least one more way that I can connect with the students and I can reach out.
So you send this through email?
I actually do that through D2L.
Okay.
All of this is set up on D2L so that I don't lose everything. Yeah, except for if they do a debate, they turn in the notes, but it's handwritten. Anything else or ideas that you have? Yeah.
What are your group sizes?
Big. Everywhere from 7 to 9, but what I tell them is that because I have a lot of different roles that I give them for the group project, they don't all have to meet, in fact, ever, except for in our class. So I'll have typically a couple of them will be writers, and so they'll work together to write. No, and I always have a bunch that want to do something creative and want to present, so they work on that. So it's a big group, but then they wind up in kind of subgroups for them. It's a lot, but then it accounts for people who either stop coming to class or drop up from class, yeah.
And then the presentations, I saw you had, it's a week for those. Do you have
They
any
sign
trouble
up.
fitting them all in?
We do it over probably 4 or 5 different, it can be like 15 minutes at the end of a class. So I do a sign up sheet and I'll lay that out when I present it to the class, for example, on Friday. And then they sign up. I never do more than 3 or 4 in a day. That'd be a lot. Yeah, and the class gets to give their feedback on each of the presentations, which they also earn a grade for. Yeah, so a lot of different ways to have students reflect on what they're doing. And again, not making anybody get up in front of the class and sing a song or something. No, most of the students do a video, so they'll get up, introduce their event, play the video, and then that's the project. Yeah. Any other questions? Uh-oh, sleepy sleeper said. Yeah.
So in terms of the extra credit, right?
Yeah.
So like, if you offer them extra credit and you have the same person coming, do you like cap the extra credit to a certain degree? Like, let's say I told them, I haven't done this yet, I was thinking about doing this. If you told them, bring me like a news piece that's relevant to our course,
Yeah.
and you have 5 minutes to share it in class. And then, you know, over the course of the next 5 weeks, I have the same person come with
I would
6.
say they can only do it once, is what I would say.
Gotcha. You limit them to once during the semester?
Once for the different types. So they
For
can,
the topic?
for the different types of extra credit that I offer. So you
Okay,
could do an event, media example, visit my office, absolutely.
Gotcha.
And then last slide, on my overall tips, especially from doing this for a long time, and that I still enjoy doing it, says a lot. I really enjoy teaching the big lecture. I like the dynamic, I like the energy, but a lot of it is because I communicate my expectations, I'm very clear, I reiterate them throughout a class, correct as needed, but also praise them. This is a great class, I really love this dynamic, and I would only say it if I mean it, right? Stay in charge. Make sure that students aren't allowing us to run away on this river of tangents, right? Or getting into so many side conversations it's distracting. Nope, we're still having a structured discussion. I keep them on task as we're doing different activities. If I see that a lot of people are off task, we probably need to stop doing whatever activity because we're probably done and ready to move on. So I adapt as well. Be confident in what you're doing or fake it. You can fake it, right? Have energy. Don't be so into your notes that you're not looking up because you got to keep eyes on the class too. Come in big if it works for you to say, but also teach with compassion. Make sure that they know you can tell me stuff. I want you to tell me stuff. I want you to come to my office. If you oversleep and you show up to the final with 10 minutes left, please still come. Please still tell me. I want that, especially in the first semester, right? In the first year, which helps with students' anxiety as well, making sure that they know that they can succeed, right? I would never tell my students, half of you will fail. I would never do that, first of all, and I would never tell them that. I want them to succeed. I genuinely want them to succeed. I'm going to give them all the tools I can to help them do that then, to earn their grades. And I said, run with the theme. Sometimes classes just get into a certain thing that they happen to like as a class. Like, for example, I had a Lucky Charms class. I don't know, they kept talking about Lucky Charms, so we had Lucky Charms Day. Okay, that's fun. And we tied it into class. And I brought Lucky Charms and had lots of fun. But that can happen. Classes take on their own personality, as we know, right? One toxic person can absolutely drain a class. So that's where some of these classroom management strategies can help with that, especially talking to a student one-on-one, trying to figure out what's going on, setting out expectations. And with that, I say start fresh every day. Not every day is going to be your most dynamic. And this is for every class. And I remind myself of this. If you have a bad class, things didn't go well, the technology didn't work, you fell down in front of everybody. Any of those things, start fresh. You don't need to go back and talk about it unless it was something that was really traumatic that you feel like the class needs a process. You falling down is not one of those, even if it was traumatic for you. But just start fresh. Focus on the people who are there, not the people who skip class. But make them known that we notice. You know, if you're not there, oh, well, this is going to add up, right? Always start fresh, and you should try to have fun. And I think I have more fun because I have a lot of policies and expectations, because we do a lot of different things in class, because I take attendance and they earn points for attendance, which is just as important, right? That we can do fun days. This is a different cost of day. And nobody knew what I was than me. I was Zabadiel Boylston, who was the first doctor to pioneer inoculation in 1721. What? We didn't get it? What? Spider-Man is near me, but so I don't know, that kind of thing to keep things fresh for yourself, especially as you teach the same class a whole bunch of times. And you know, things have evolved over time, especially with projects that'll allow and ones that won't. and what we do and just to make it exciting, because it should be at least somewhat exciting most of the time. Or maybe not everybody feels like that. At least what I teach should be exciting most of the time, especially with media stuff. It should be fun. And if it's not, then I want to reevaluate what I'm doing a little bit so that we can learn, but also have, I don't know, any questions or anything, and you can go to the last one. That's just Nerd Lightning, that's SOJSM's mascot. Woo, he's a journalist. Any questions or tips that you'd like to share? What works for you? What doesn't work for you? Yeah, if everything I've said doesn't work, okay. But I mean, it depends on your discipline, of course. It depends on the class dynamic. Right. I like to be really transparent. Even in my grading scale, I'm really transparent. I use a 1,000-point grade scale, so it's really easy to figure out grades. That doesn't work for every class I teach, but for this one, absolutely. Okay, Bueller class.
I think,
Yeah.
so this might be very naive. This is my first semester teaching
Oh, congratulations. And what department?
biology.
Oh, okay.
So something that's been working for me,
Uh-huh.
I'm 3 lectures in.
Yeah. Ooh, 3 lectures in. Good
Yeah.
job. You haven't fallen down or anything?
Have I fallen down yet?
No.
No,
Pretty good.
but
All right.
today, and I taught this morning, so today I
Yeah.
had a question on the board to like have them like engage and answer the
Yeah.
question. And somebody was like, but that's kind of a trick question because you already told us what the answer was. And I was like, I mean, that means that you were paying attention.
Yay. Well, that's great.
And then after they answered the question, one of the students raised their hand, but that temperature should do something to these proteins.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, but it doesn't pertain to actual function of the topic we're discussing. So we delved into that a bit, and I told them, and in the you're asking the right question here because it's not this simple, right? We're simplifying something very complex for you to understand it, and that's worked for me very well. I mean, silence. Sometimes they'll start the class and I'll ask them some questions about what was previously discussed, and they'll just sit there like this, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna head to my iPad and I'll put the class list and just pick some names at random. And by the time I'm at my iPad, somebody has already raised their hand.
Well, and some students, especially the chatty ones, probably can't stand the silence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know how many things I volunteered for in my career because I can't stand silence? So many. It's like, oh darn. Okay. Yeah, but and again, whatever works for you, especially in a subject that can be really tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing that's kind of working for me in terms of office hours is like, if you have somebody asked me today, like, oh, can I send you like the study guide answer and you check it for me? I was like, it's a study guide.
Oh,
It's for you to fill out
that's a
for
good
yourself.
way to do it.
If you want to discuss the study guide, you can come to my office. If there's one particular question that you're having issues with,
Yes. But
you can email me and we can discuss it at my office.
that's how I do papers too. I don't just give feedback to papers for other classes. Without them coming to my office to look over it together.
Yeah.
And then you can ask questions. Yeah. Anything else, good tips or anything? Yeah,
This is more of a question. I
sure.
love that you have all these policies, but I'm also struggling with a bit of like treating them like adults. And so I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit to that, because I know there's 18 and they're trying to learn how to be adults, but how to navigate all of
I
that.
see it as our job to help them do that by
Yeah.
creating things that'll help them be successful.
Okay, yeah.
And things that'll help them be successful even in entry-level jobs, right? I mean, if you're, working at Taco Bell, but you're on your phone all the time at the register, you're not gonna work there very long.
Yeah.
So that's part of it too. And being really clear in my expectations. Now, I do, I won't say loosen up, but I don't have quite the same policies for upper level seminars and especially grad classes. Just don't let things be a problem is what I say with those classes, but especially in a big class and their first year students, this is what I expect and I'm going to tell you. And I'm going to tell you what happens if you don't follow the policies. We actually don't wind up discussing a lot of it most of the time, and I tell them that, if everybody focuses and engages and stays awake and keeps their phones in their pocket, we never have to talk about it the whole semester. If we're all adults, we don't have to talk about it. Awesome, right? But I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But also, again, if you get one person go to the bathroom in a 55-minute period, the next class period, you're gonna get 4 people leave to go to the bathroom. And then suddenly 15 people are leaving to go. It builds and it's amplified. So that's how I address it. Also, now I'm old, so they don't seem quite as much like adults. Some are, of course, but and I have teenagers. So with teenagers, I also have gotten used to a lot of these kinds of things, even if it's not directly related, which my kids hate. Anything else? Or what works for you? What doesn't? And everyone has their own style and you figure it out and you figure out what works, what doesn't. And what worked for some classes, for some things, you know, in 2008 definitely doesn't work anymore. I also had to take out a bunch of technology nobody would bring to class now. Nobody's bringing an iPod, a Walkman. Yes. Okay, thank you guys.
Well, thank you. Can you
Yeah.
help me in thanking Katie Foss being our presenter today for.
Thank you for
Thank you all
having
for
me.
being here and wish you all the best for
Yeah.
a great semester. You're getting applause in the Zoom room as well.
I hope it was helpful. I'm guessing that not as many people do the costume days that I like. I'm excited
I
because
love it.
Halloween is on a class day. Well, and then we do a big event in SOJSM